Welcome. Hi, everyone. I hope it's working. Yes, I believe it is. Welcome, my friends and beloved ones, to the new episode of the Edible Spirit Hour. Isn't it sweet? Isn't it nice? Isn't it lovely? Okay, good. We're all good. We're streaming. We're set up. We're live. Pardon the delay. A couple minutes here, 2-3 minutes here. We've been moving while trying to get a house. Just got a house, so we're broadcasting from a kitchen in Walton, New York today. A dear friend's kitchen where we've made lots of delicious food. We had some barbecue earlier today. That was pretty cute. And this is another episode of the Edible Spirit Hour. This is a show that's dedicated to healers and healing, to bringing all of the wildest, weirdest, wackiest, witchiest stuff into your screen, into your heart, into your body, into your mind. We started this show because we, after working for 12, 13 years now, doing readings and healings, noticed that not everybody likes to talk about the healing that they're doing. And so we thought, what better way to encourage us to all be open about our healing than to do fun, exciting, interactive public formats like this, but especially to bring on healers and healing practices, healers and their healing practices. So because part of the Edible Spirit philosophy that all of our readings and our AuraPics and everything's based on is the idea that you heal so that you can help to heal others, and you cultivate practices for yourself, and those who go on to study and learn and even sometimes master practices for themselves will then be able to use those practices to help others find their center and their balance and their healing, and keeps vibrating and reverberating out. So we have an amazing guest tonight who is named Rebecca Krause. She's a dear old friend of mine. We like to start each of these, so she'll come on in a minute, but we like to start each of these episodes with what we call the F Me update, okay? This is about the astrology of the moment, what's going on, and we have so much going on right now. It's really quite kooky. The most important thing to share is that we had a full moon just the other day on Thursday, October 1st. It was in like 5:05 in the afternoon. Full moon in Aries, which has a lot of self-related energy, fire-related energy. There's a lot of stuff going on with Mars. Mars is still retrograde until November 13th. So basically, remembering that, Edible Spirit, we have at the Instagram, Edible Spirit IGTV, there are 12 horoscopes that we call the foodie scopes that are for you, that are based on the full moons and new moon astrology. And each of those horoscopes will give you a little a dose. These are actually pretty big, intense doses. You can go to instagram.com/ediblespirit and navigate to the IGTV page, and you can get 12 video horoscopes that we actually end with. If you were a snack, you'd be ... So we come up with delicious flavors. Maybe we'll share one of those with you guys a little bit later. But right now, I just wanted to show you for a moment this zodiacal thing. So this is a full moon chart cast for the full moon in Aries. And we put Aries in the first house here. That's at about, between like 8 and 9 o'clock on the clock. You can see the little crescent, that's the moon, and then the sun that's opposite. So that's the full energy of the Libra sun blasting into the Aries moon. Because the sun is in Libra, it's the season of balance, the season of justice. Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlethems, this is the season of balance represented by the scales, justice, the courts, but also karma. And we're just going to leave that one right there. So the sun is in Libra, drawing all this energy of balance and harmony, and Libra is the sign of the fall. So it's this whole season now really that has this energy of balance, that's been initiated. And then the full moon we've been talking a lot about itchiness. If you're not itchy, then where the fuck are you at right now? The full moon is conjunct a planet called Chiron that's all about healing, and enforced healing and healing that needs to occur. Otherwise, our whole system breaks down. But then also in that same little chunk, all over there between 8 and 9 o'clock, in the zodiac is Mars. You know, the little circle with the, you know, the I don't know, I'm seeing like Leisure Suit Larry in the 70s. The Mars sign, that yangy, fiery planet, also associated with fire. And that planet is retrograde. So basically, the long and short of what we want to share with you guys right now is it's this unique energy where Mars is what we want, how we get things done, what we do, and how we act and what we choose in order to get those things done, in order to get what we want. And Mars is retrograde. So all of the energy from Mars retrograde is sort of pushing back against you, pushing fire against us, sort of breathing fire down our faces, trying to say to us like, do you really want that? Are you sure you really want that? And so there's a tremendous amount of resistance, very normal to be getting explosively angry. Passions are running high. There's so much more having to do with Pluto and Saturn, which is stuff that takes a long time, that is also being activated by the stuff that's up there between like 11 and 12. You see those red lines that are going from Mars up to, you know, Capricorn. That is more fire being pinged in the air. So the idea is that there's a lot of fire kind of breathing down your neck in order to test your mettle, in order to create resistance against what you want, create resistance against what you're trying to do, so that you can summon up some more of that fire to try to really accomplish what you want to accomplish. Okay, so that is the astrological element of this, which we love. And what else can we tell you? Sorry about the wobble here. I actually have the computer balanced on a bottle of my friend's bottle of Johnny Walker Black. I don't drink that, so to speak, but that's what we're working with. Let's see what's going on over here with you guys. Hi, everyone. Hi. Hi, Bill. Hi, Ichigo. Hi, Allison. Hey, Laura. Hi, double Laurens. We got Lauren Febreze and Lauren Flax. Oh, and Flax will crack up because there's it says on this YouTube page that I'm looking at right now, average watch time is 4:44. So that's a very special, specific number for me. Feels great. So let's see. I think without further ado, let's bring in our guest. And then we'll have a little chat with them and see what's up. Hang on. Here we go. So this is when we move on to the next part of our show. Here she is. Hi, Angel.
Hi.
So good to see you.
Hi.
Thanks for being here.
I really appreciate your Johnny Walker Black, because my iPad is balanced on Connect 4, Monopoly, Twister, Don't Break the Ice, Operation, and categories.
The angel baby who lives in my house is younger than your angel baby, so there's no games. So I had to go for the grown-up toys.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much for being here. One of my sweetest and dearest and longest and most treasured relationships. It's just really nice to be here. But I also love to be here in this context with you. I just want to give a little bit of an intro of the fact that you and I met, you know, at NYU, freshman year. Rebecca and I were in the same dorm. And today, you know what I remember today as I was doing my makeup? I remembered that you used to do your eyes for days. I see them, but I remember you doing high drag contour with your eyes well before the other children were doing it, honey. And you also were one of the first people I knew who had the guts to like do a full on, like, right? Correct? Yes. So it's but what I mostly wanted to impress is, even though we know each other very well, we spend so much time together, and even though we sometimes talk shop, we don't usually get to like chat about our practices and about our life. And, you know, I've learned stuff from you. I've taken classes with you. You've studied with me, but like, I'm so excited that we actually get to be here and share this part of ourselves with each other and with the people that are watching tonight. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
So this brings us to what we call this moment, this little segment of our time when we're together with you is I like to ask everybody, how are you healing? And with the intention of giving you some space and time to tell us about your practice, tell us about the work that you do with others, but also tell us about how you self-care and how you use healing yourself. Do you use your practice? I know like sometimes, you know, like cobblers, you know, don't have shoes or their shoes are all busted or shrinks are crazy, you know, but like, I was also thinking the other day, if you remember you had those bracelets when you were like activating your chi.
Hmm.
Okay, so tell us about your practice. I actually have to try to connect a little thing. So tell us about your practice and how you work and floor is yours.
Okay. So I'm an acupuncturist, Chinese herbalist, medical Qigong practitioner, Thai massage therapist, acro yoga teacher. And I kind of blend all of my things together to help people reach their optimal state of health. And that's different for everyone. And it's different for everyone in different times of their life. And so I never go into a session with an idea of what I'm going to be doing with someone. I go in with sort of an open mind and my toolbox, and then in talking to them and in feeling their pulses. And in Chinese medicine, we diagnose people by feeling their pulses and understanding what's going on internally based on the pulse diagnosis. And so as soon as I feel someone's pulse, then I decide what tools to pull out of the toolbox for that particular session. And generally, I do medical Qigong with every person that I work with, especially since the pandemic started, because that's where we go into the deeper energetics and helping people release what they're holding on to emotionally. And it's sort of the magic aspect of what I do. And to clarify, you know, we think of Chinese medicine often in this country as Chinese herbs and acupuncture. And really, there's many more branches of ancient Chinese medicine. So there's nutrition and like how we feed ourselves, how we nourish ourselves. There's Tui Na, which is massage, Chinese massage. And then there's Qigong, which is this energy work aspect and moving meditation. And then acupuncture and herbs. And we forget about the three branches that didn't come post Mao. So when Mao Zedong came to power, he kind of got rid of the more esoteric side of it, and it was just herbs and acupuncture because they were efficient and they got people back to work really quickly.
Right.
So I like to bring the magic back into it.
Well, 100%. And I remember, so that's why I wanted to tell people, you know, we met at NYU, we met as like ravers and party kids. And then Becca and I went kind of, not really our separate ways, but we went off on different paths. And then when we reunited years later, we both found ourselves in the middle of our healing paths and like getting really deep into it. And it was so cool because, you know, one of the reasons why my company's EdibleSpirit, because I grew up in restaurants as a chef. And so it's almost like I was completely in denial of the woo-woo and mystical aspects of the work that I did because I was so steeped in these practical things like food and all this stuff. But when I met you, I remember you being like, I'm onto some really cool stuff. But because you learned it within the context of these really ancient sciences and like age-old practices, it never actually felt that woo-woo. And it was like you could kind of get your qigong into it while you were doing like, just don't worry, this is acupuncture, you know. Reminds me of someone who gave me a facial once and gave me Reiki, and I started seeing like purple holograms while they were doing my facial, and I was like, what is going on right now? And she was like, it's okay, do Reiki, it's nice. You know. So but it sounds to me like now you have really harmonized these different aspects and elements and are really able to work with people where they're at in that moment. And you know, I had a Chinese doctor for a while, but it seemed to me like he would read the pulse and get whatever information it is that you get out of the pulse, but then also you can make room for your intuition sort of saying like, this means that, or this means that. Can you talk about that at all?
So pulse diagnosis is taught in acupuncture school. It's a very basic, well, they teach it in a very basic way. So in the pulse, you kind of wrap around and you find the pulse, like where the artery here. And then in these pulses, this is an easier way to say it. So in each pulse, there's 1, 2, 3, and then there's 3 levels. There's superficial, you go a little deeper, and then you can go really deep. And you're reading for the quality and what the texture and the rate of each one of those. So essentially in 9 positions on each side, we're looking for the possibility of 27 different qualities. And so that's the basic thing. That's what you learn in school. And in the usually 3 to 4 years that you're in acupuncture school, you learn it in a basic way. And then in clinic, you practice it and practice it and practice it. And you read it, and then your teachers read it. And then it starts to sink in some way. But in the beginning, really, you're trying to just match those pulses to what the questions that are that you're asking your patient and how they're responding. And you're like, oh, when that person says that, their pulse can feel like this. So they say after 10 years, you're a beginner of pulse reading.
Wow, that's
amazing. And I was really lucky that I found my mentor, my teacher, while I was in acupuncture school in my first year there. And she really taught me pulses. And one of the things that she did with me is I'd go into her clinic and I'd feel pulses, and she would say, okay, now turn off your intuition and tell me what the pulses say. I realized that so much of what I was doing was I'd touch someone's pulse, and like we can go way out, and we're in edible spirit land. So I could be like, I'm channeling this info, right? Yep. But like out there in the world out there, it's more like we all can read each other, right? Like if we tap into our empathy and we tap into like understanding how faces respond and how like we can see sickness under people's eyes or around like their mouth. And like, there's different ways that we can really read people, right? This is how people win poker games, right?
Right.
So
nonverbal cues.
Exactly. And so if we strip all that away, right? So you can read pulses with your eyes closed and shutting down your intuition, there's still a system that you can learn.
Right.
Once you learn the system, then you peel it off, right? Then you like pop it open, you allow all of it to flow in, you let the intuition flow in. And then not only are you like, oh, does your stomach hurt today? You're also like, what happened when you were 5? And like, and then all the nonverbal cues go wild, right? So it's so the system of diagnosis in Chinese medicine is like, there is a system, but there's also an intuitive nature to that system, and you have to like hone it in. And the way we do it is through qigong, is through meditation. Like you have to bring yourself into your center, or you can't treat somebody else. It just doesn't work.
Right. And the way I describe it to people when I'm teaching psychic classes or stuff like that is that you have to be present with yourself and in a relative state of balance in order to be present with someone and simply observe what is, right? And there's so much that you can tell just by removing what you want to see or what you think you see, just to observe what actually is. You see this with really high-powered surgeons and stuff that like know what they're talking about. And they're like, oh, it's this. I've seen this a million times before. It's like, yeah, but you're not looking right now, and it also reminds me of when I first started learning about Chinese medicine too, just this idea that the awareness of the meridians and the awareness of how the energy flows and these different dynamics and things that happen in the body, that they evolved out of people and doctors, right? Observing nature and observing the elements and the animals and patterns and really just asking this big question of what is our relationship to all that is, and what is our relationship to each other, and what is our relationship to self? Is that accurate when I say that?
Yeah. I mean, they also like learned about herbs by poisoning people, like,
well, but it was trial and error, right?
My servant, and then they'll die, and okay, we can't use that one.
Shade.
Yeah, so that's real. That happened. And same thing with the points and meridians. Like all medicine, we go through like, there's some gnarly history in there. Before we figured out a safe way to practice, and especially with Chinese herbs, like when you're taking a really medicinal dose of these things, it's strong. And if you misdiagnose, like you can really you can get someone sick, it's just like if you're prescribing like, Western medicine, it's like when you prescribe it right, it can go really right. And when you prescribe it wrong or questionably wrong, there's like really gnarly side effects. And it's just with Chinese herbs too. Like, I think that people sort of downplay the strength of these herbal medicines, but they're really strong.
One time I fell down the stairs at Kula Yoga Project in Canal Street. I'm sure I can't be the only one who did that, but but when I fell, I went right to my acupuncturist and he gave me all these herbs and he was like, these are strong. And so I went home.
Yeah.
He was like, you're going to need to chill after you take these herbs. And I took the herbs and exactly 20 minutes later, my tongue started feeling like it was being electrocuted. And then I lay down in bed and I was getting these waves of electricity. And I'm not like, ooh, like, it was so intense, man.
Yeah.
So tell me something. I do want to tell you this, if it's convenient and you can, and you have your phone near me and you can text me that, or email me that picture that you sent me. I can't download it from my text because I think it's a Droid iPhone thing.
What do you want me to do with it?
Just send me that picture that Doris took so that I can use,
via email?
If you can, if it's possible.
I can
if
do
not,
it.
okay, good.
Oh gosh. This is very out of my comfort zone. I'm a total technophobe, not technophobe. I love techno, a technical phobe. And this is like so out of my comfort zone to be on here and just any of this. So thank you for pushing me out of my comfort zone. I appreciate it.
I'm so glad, it's so cool because as I've started doing this show with people, it becomes immediately clear that the people that come on, now that they're used to it, they're going to have to come back and talk to us some more, and can't wait. Oh, so everybody who's watching, if you're watching on YouTube, okay, great. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure, and you want a reading, we have some people in the Zoom waiting room right now, but if you do know that you want a reading or you have a question for Becca or for myself, you can go to the Zoom link, which is on EdibleSpirit.com, or Instagram in the bio. You can click on the Zoom link that will put you in the meeting room, and then we'll be able to connect with you, okay? So as I get your picture going, I'm gonna just do the little transfer and start your AuraPic while you're talking, but there's two things that I really want you to talk about. Maybe you can do it together. Tell us a little bit about the meridians and how they work, but I know I wanna get to COVID, and some of the stuff that you've been saying to me just about the doctors who were treating COVID pre, during, and post infection in China, and sort of what their protocol was, and really also like, what you've been seeing in people, just because what blew my mind about Chinese medicine when I was talking to my doctor, when I was working with him ages ago, was I was like, I think I have a flu, or I think I have like, bronchitis or something. And he was like, no, like your lungs are damp, your liver's on fire, and your blood is stagnant. And I was like, Shade, what do you mean? But like my understanding was that was how he was kind of understanding what I was going through. So just tell everybody kind of as much as you can about how it works. And then if you get to COVID, go there, okay?
If it's okay, can I start with COVID actually?
By all means, 100%.
Okay. So it's an easy Google search to type in like Chinese meridians and you can see what those look like in the body, but it's a lot harder to find like COVID information about Chinese medicine. So that's okay. It's also just what's happening right now, right?
Totally.
So what was interesting is right early on in COVID, when it was really exploding in Wuhan, the doctors in Wuhan released their protocols of using Chinese herbs in the hospitals for their very sick patients. And so we had it here in America. We had it all over. It was in, all different languages. It was all through Europe. And so we had access to this information of the medicines that they were using and how effective they were. And so the cool thing about Chinese medicine, in my opinion, is that it doesn't look at a person as a symptom. It looks at the entire picture. And so with COVID, we had seen right away that there are many different pictures of COVID. So there's like COVID with GI issues, and then there's COVID where there's neurological symptoms, and then there's COVID with a cough, and there's COVID with fever. And so there's all these different ways, and there's not one herb that addresses COVID. There's many herbal protocols depending on how your presentation is. And so this is in no way trying to say that these medicines heal for they cures COVID. I just want to be really clear about that. But
100%. This is to deepen understanding and empowerment, et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly. And so this is all about looking at the symptomology of what someone's experiencing and how to ease those symptoms, especially when the symptoms are in the lungs, especially when you feel like you can't breathe and you feel like you're dying. And even if you're not, even if you like have a mild case of COVID, especially with the anxiety, like in the spring that was coming with it, how do we open the lungs? How do we expand the breath? How do we get rid of some of that phlegm that's stuck up in the lungs? How do we get people to actually cough and express that instead of this dry, like suffocating cough? And so if we can do that and we can alleviate some of that anxiety even, then the body can be less inflamed overall and have a better chance of healing. And so
that's what, just to say, that's what I think happened to me. Was I was starting to feel lung symptoms when I was in quarantine in North Carolina. After I think I was exposed to it, I started feeling lung symptoms, but it was so scary down there, and you couldn't go to a hospital unless you were really in the throes of stuff. But the protocols were so weird, I didn't want to go to the hospital. And then I started panicking. And I think there was one night that I thought I was dying, that I think it was mostly anxiety.
Mhm.
But then the next day I had a fever and the fatigue. I never lost my sense of taste, thank goddess. But 100%, I could tell that the anxiety was making it worse. And my doctor was like, here's a nebulizer, like to breathe and to try to open those things. And I was like, okay, that could be useful, but like, what's going on? And he was like, honestly, I don't know. I can't see you. The tests are weird. So keep going. I just wanted to share that.
Yeah. And it's it's the combination of like the physical symptoms, the emotional symptoms, and then the collective experience of what this virus means.
Yeah.
And collectively, we have this heaviness of grief, and grief in Chinese medicine is harbored in the lungs. And so we have this grief. Some of us are also experiencing a lot of guilt and a lot of sadness. And so we have this heaviness of emotion in the lungs, like paired with this actual symptom in the lungs. And COVID it's not just in the lungs, right? It's a blood disease. Like it's running through our blood. And so in Chinese medicine, we have ways to address the lungs, the blood. We have ways to, move the blood to help with the neurological symptoms. And also this medicine's been around for thousands of years, and it's to treat viruses. And so there are antiviral components of a lot of the herbs that we can use.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just your immune system fighting, you're adding something in that gives it like another like 1-2 punch. So you don't have to do it all yourself, right. Which is ultimately what we're looking for in Western medicine, right? Like we're looking for a treatment to help us fight the virus. So we don't have to do it all on our own, right?
Right.
So I've been treating virtually. I was treating a lot of symptomology of COVID through the spring, and even actually now, and all over the country, just talking to people about their symptoms or texting if they feel like they couldn't speak, because, that was coming up a lot. Mm. And across the board, every single person who took herbs saw an improvement in their symptoms. And some of them had very severe cases. They did end up needing oxygen or something, but all of them had an improvement after taking the herbs. A couple hours later, they would feel this improvement in their symptoms. Even if the symptoms came back, they had this alleviation of their symptoms and alleviation of the emotional stress that go along with this symptoms.
So intense. And I also want to just tie it to what was coming through in the horoscopes and the foodie scopes this week was very much, we're also approaching Scorpio season later in the month, but
I love me Scorpio.
Oh yeah. It's the best day, November 18th. But just the idea that it's been coming through the ethers in the most mystical, juju-y of ways. Honor the dead, honor the dead, honor the dead, honor the dead. If you feel crazy right now, grieving practice, this is from the edible spirit side of things, doing grieving practices, honoring your ancestors, or even just lighting a candle for the 200 some thousand people who've died from this illness and from so many other things. It lets in a little bit of truth that can cause you to cry or get angry or express all these emotions. And then weirdly enough, your lungs might be a little easier to take in some more air. So that's the really woo-woo side of it. But then from the herbal treatment of it, you're treating these symptoms and treating these different organs. And then that also has an emotional corollary. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so before my teacher passed, she told me that I had to start teaching Qigong. And I and I'm not a natural teacher. It makes me really scared. I get really uncomfortable with it. And COVID provided me this opportunity to start teaching Qigong because I felt like it's this equitable way to get people to be able to get in their bodies more and deal with their emotions in a way without having to talk about it. Because sometimes talking about your emotions isn't the way to clear it. Sometimes it's you experience your emotion and you let yourself feel it deeply. And sometimes movement is actually the way that clears it. Especially if you're more of like a kinesthetic learner, movement is a great way to clear emotional like strife. And so I've been teaching these Qigong classes, and every single week that I'm teaching them, it's movement of clearing the lungs, and it's a lot of expansive movement of like pumping and stretching, and it's moving and breaking apart all the tension, because part of what we do when we cry, right, and we grieve is we do this, right? We curl up, and and it's painful, and we feel it here, you know, and my heritage is Jewish, right? And so even in Judaism, at Yom Kippur, when we're atoning for our sins, which just happened last week, we like hit here. It's like we hit our hearts, and we like say about our sins. And so it's all about this, right? And so if we can start opening and pumping, then we can let in the breath, we can let in the inspiration, and we can allow some movement of this grief without bypassing the grief, right? Like without doing this like, oh, but we'll just, tomorrow's a better day, because that doesn't work with grief, right? We have to like allow ourselves to actually feel it and move within it and through it.
Right. A teacher of mine said, and people have probably heard this before, but the idea that emotion is energy in motion, hopefully, right? That when you feel something, if you stagnate it, it's going to get stopped up. And it's also a great example of Mars retrograde, that there's this, Mars is the planet of powerful, passionate, strong desires and emotions. And when it's retrograde, like we were saying at the beginning, it pushes back on you to create a critical mass of discomfort and itchiness, so that then Chiron, conjunct the full moon, can make you go, ugh, I have to relieve this. But it's shocking how much even our physiological device usage and fear and anxiety and all this stuff can make it seem like it's easier to hold this energy than it is to actually feel it and express it and move it. So I love the idea that getting into it kinesthetically will actually create an analogous emotional release and flow. That's super cool.
Well, and I feel like also what I've been seeing with COVID is that you get through the disease, and that's like the moment, that's like this acute trauma moment. And when we're in a trauma moment in Chinese medicine, it taxes our kidneys, right? Our kidney system is like our adrenal system in Chinese medicine. It's our water. And so when we have a big, like, when the dam breaks and the water floods out from the stress or the trauma, and then we're left with less vitality after. And so now we're in this post-COVID place, or any sickness really can be used for in this example. And we're trying to deal with the healing that goes on from there, right? So the weeks, the months, maybe the years of other types of illness, and we're starting from a depleted place. And so the ways that we build up kidney energy is sleep, is there's foods that can nourish our kidney energy, and meditation, and herbs, right? Food and herbs and meditation. And so when we're in this place of this depletion, the first thing that happens is we stop being able to sleep. And so the thing that's supposed to nourish us is not, it's not accessible anymore. So especially like post-COVID or post any sickness, like if we can use these herbs, or we can use acupuncture, we can use Ayurvedic medicine, we can, you know, whatever it is, anything that can help us like support our adrenal system, help our like, and to go Western on it, to help our turn off that sympathetic nervous system, to turn off our flight, fight, or freeze response.
Right.
So we can be in a more rest place, then we can nourish ourselves. And then when we have a chance of supporting these symptoms that we're having, and getting rid of these symptoms that we're having.
I've been really passionate and talking to people about trauma release and the nervous system, all that stuff. And one of the things that occurred to me while you were talking about the reading of the pulse, a teacher and friend of mine was talking about how, no, the body knows, the body has these codes. I'm a very emotional, talking, mental person, but like, so I would miss a 9-point pulse. But I love this idea that your physical and energetic body systems, but even just the physical system, is giving you like deep, thick, useful information just from where and when it's beating and pumping. So I think it just brings it. Oh, and then I would presume, I was going to ask you, so the idea then of Tuina, of this massage, does that have to do with energy points and meridians too? So can you learn like how to, like you were saying here, like if I want to open up my lungs and I'm massaging these points, will that help?
Yes. So whenever we want, in Tuina, there's a lot of different, yeah, love that. So there's so many ways that we can do. We can do self-tweena, or we can do tweena on someone else.
I'm going to start sharing this screen with you because I want to, just in a second, I don't want to shock you. You're going to come up on the screen and I'm going to start doing your AuraPics so I can give you that little read before we bring callers in, but carry on and keep talking.
Oh, yeah.
I'm hearing you.
In my AuraPic, I wore those socks especially for you.
I'm obsessed. What are they called again? They're
called ovary achievers.
That's very awesome.
So when we're doing tweena, the idea is moving energy through our channels. And so there are all these meridians or energy channels that run through our body. And so with the lung meridian, it starts up here. This is lung 1. It's where the pec and the shoulder meet. It comes down the arm out into the thumb. And so we can tap at lung 1. We can even move down our arm. You can do it doesn't have to be any like fancy way that they would teach you to tweena. You can just rub down your arm, and in rubbing down your arm or pounding down your arm, you break up the stagnation in the channel, you move the energy through the vessel, and you feel better after. But for most people, I shouldn't speak for all people, but I know for myself, one of the practice. So, okay, to answer, we're going to go back to that self-care question.
Yes, please.
So there I am. Hi.
As we give you some self-care, just so everybody knows, we're sitting here tuning into Becca's aura and drawing some of what we're seeing, and we're going to give her a little read in a moment, because one of the things we like to do here is offer these healers who are sharing their practice with us and with other people just a little thank you and a gift of tuning into their energy. Okay, so keep going. So self-care.
So part of my self-care is actually my work. I started working in person with patients again on June 3rd. And it has been so nourishing for me to support people through this time, because when I signed up to be a healer, which my mother would argue happened when I was a child, when she told me I should be a doctor when I was very young, and I told her I should be a Supreme Court justice. And it turns out my mom was right again. But because it's totally my passion. It is like my deepest love is this work. When I got to go back to work in person, it really nourishes me in a way that there's a lot of argument of how can your self-care also be your job? And I really think that it is for me. I generally don't feel depleted even after a long day. I feel energized. I feel excited. And when I didn't get to work, it was really tough for me to not see patients in person, because like I said, technology doesn't totally work for me. And so if I'm not physically in someone's presence, I don't feel like I can hold the same space for them and support them in the same way. But I like to think about self-care as like basic self-care and then like champagne self-care. And so for me, like basic self-care is, did I drink enough water during the day? Did I pee when I had to pee? And did I eat food at appropriate times throughout the day? And it doesn't even kind of matter what that food is. It's like, did you eat enough? And I think it's really important that everybody can get basic self-care in their life. And as a society, we have not done a good job of creating that for people. So I like to think about like how we can provide that or help and hold space for people to have like the basic thing. Can they drink enough water? And can they pee? Can they take a break from work in order to pee at the time? I can't believe how many people don't take that break.
My mom used to brag about it to me when we still had the restaurant. She'd be like, I haven't peed in 48 hours. And I'm like, what? I mean, not really, but like I haven't peed in 8 hours. And she was like proud of it and buzzed from it. And I was like, this is nuts. But all that stuff that you're talking about in my practice is all associated with the root chakra. Eating, sleeping, pissing, shitting. It's all connected to the root. If you don't have that foundation, if you haven't slept, if you haven't eaten, if you haven't peed, how you going to do much else,
Absolutely. And then we move up to the second chakra, right? And it's like, am I emotionally taking care? Like, is my self-care my second chakra taking care of, like, which is sexual emotional? So am I having enough orgasms, whether it's with myself or other, right? It's, am I feeling taken care of emotionally? And for me, I'm an extreme extrovert. And so this time is particularly hard in that chakra for me, even though I live with an amazing husband who shares your birthday, and I live with the sweetest dog, and I live with a freaking awesome 7.5-year-old. And that's all well and good, but my extreme extroversion needs more than that. And so it was interesting. So yeah, so in terms of that kind of self-care, it's I have like a Marco Polo with a bunch of my girlfriends who live around the country, and we Marco Polo a lot. And so that actually does feed a part of me that's really helpful. We have a backyard. We're very lucky to have a backyard in Brooklyn. And so we have people over in the yard with mass, etc. And so even doing that once a week feels like self-care for me.
I have to say this too, just because for those of you, you'd be surprised how many people are getting shaded for wanting to adhere to various protocols. And just, I've told you this before, but I have to tell everybody else that Becca was a person who, in such a woke way, when I went to visit her and have a distance meeting in her backyard, you know, I've been quarantined up out in the middle of nowhere for most of this whole time. So to be in the city and come to her house and to just to see the way you handled it and the way you asked us, are you hugging? Are you comfortable with this? Are you safe with this? It really brought me into the present. And I've been so grateful for all the stuff that we've learned about consent and boundaries and safety and clarity. And you just made it all feel so acceptable to me because I really wanted to see you. And I've been trying to hold up, you know, protocols like this, and I'd gotten weird flack from various people. So that was just really soothing and powerful. And it's just this idea, I mean, maybe, I don't know if we'll get to talk about this tonight, but, you know, don't you find that when you have clear boundaries and established consent, it opens the door for the most fun?
Yeah. And I mean, this is like something that I've been practicing in my relationship now. So, you know, my hubby and I have been married for 10.5 years. And for anyone who knew me prior to that, they would be like, no one thought I'd ever get married. And he and I just really like, we thrive on this kind of communication about like boundaries out in the world. And so we just took that into our COVID life. And for me, it actually doesn't feel hard to have those conversations, because if someone doesn't want to have the conversations with me around COVID consent, then we're not going to hang out right now. And if they shame me for it, then I want to educate them on what's going on in the world, because this is real. And so, yeah, the questions of, and I like to do it in advance. It feels easier for me to know what I'm walking into. If we're going to go into edible land here, I'm a triple Capricorn. And so I'm very much about earth, stability, rules. So you didn't know that about me? So I very much like my grounding. Once I feel grounded and safe, then I can grow wild. Then I'm also young earth in my Chinese signs, which is like a volcano. So it's like, if I'm stable, then I can explode from there. My magma can
molten hot magma,
new life. Like then I'm creating islands, you know, magma.
I love that. So good. And so that's beautiful. I just really love this. So I want to talk to you about your AuraPic for just 1 second, and then I want to bring in a couple callers. We've got this. So I love this because you saw us kind of drawing it as we were going here. It's very you. It's very fun. You're a righty, dominant hand, or lefty?
Yes.
Okay. So the righty, then, this active yang side, it's really beautiful. It feels to me like you are clearing the way in Libra season, creating harmony for this next month, if not next 3 months. Like you sort of sent this clarion call into your future to be like, it will be balanced. It will be stable. It will be beautiful, right? And the green, the lighter green that's kind of coming in there is a nature spirit energy. It's like a bubbly, almost fairy-like energy. So I know about your beautiful backyard. So all I would say here is like, consider the idea. I know you work with the elements in Chinese medicine, but consider the idea of the elementals, which are the consciousness personified of those elements. So in Celtic and, you know, pagan lore, fire is salamander, you know, water is undine, air is sylphs, and earth is gnomes. And so the fairies are also like a combination of earth and air. So it's just this idea when you think of the elements that they're kind of personified. So I would just say in your yard, if you were in like rural England, I would tell you to build a fairy garden. You could do this for sure. But the idea is you want to create some sort of elemental home that's tiny to allow the spirits of that space to have a place to come and land. And what's cute is elementals usually show up when you have stuff to do on Earth that you could use some support in. So even as you're saying, I'm getting ready to go do this work, I'm back to work since June, you know, as we go into the fall and hopefully everything, you know, stays nice and stable and comfortable. But if we get more intensity this fall, this beautiful green in front of you, the dark green is like, I am going to make this stable and harmonious and delicious. And the light green says that those energies of the elementals want to help you make that beautiful and stable and harmonious and energized and full of vitality. So honoring them in some way through some kind of elemental honoring practice, either on an altar or in a little fairy garden, or, you know, like a bowl of water that you keep filled and clear, that you put some crystals in or something, just so that these energies have a place to go to make what you're trying to do easier. Love that. The yellow around your feet is about learning through conflict. And we'll talk about the overall aura in just a minute, but it's about learning through challenges, learning through lessons, learning through stumbling a little bit. And it's saying here that you are trying to get grounded in this moment. And this is talking about your grounding. And it's saying you might stumble a couple times as you're talking about the beautiful way that you're keeping your energy harmonious and that the work gives you life. P.S. That's also very edible spirit to be like, no, if you are serving, if you're doing your dharma, if you are serving in the way that your mom called out that you would be a healer, et cetera, it should give you life, because we always say you shouldn't serve in a way that's dry and causes friction. You want to serve in a juicy, yummy, delicious way, right? So finding your dharma, finding your path, even if it's narrow, even if it asks a lot from you, how do you expect to sustain that path if it doesn't literally give you life? So this is just saying, as you continue on this very yangy moment of forward motion until November 13th, when Mars goes direct, when you're actually going to get even more yang motion, more fire in your step, this is saying, don't be afraid to calibrate and honor, honestly, those root chakra related things of, are you eating? Are you sleeping? Are you peeing? Are you surrounding yourself in the material comforts that you need in order to work to the degree that you want to work? On the left-hand side of your aura, which is the receptive side, it's this beautiful magenta, violet, and then way up at the top is pink. Okay, so the magenta and the green, that's again more harmony. It's a little wavy and diaphanous. Purple's the color of change. So with deep and dramatic change. So what this says to me is, it says to me that the way that you're projecting forward in this beautiful balanced way is actually creating space for you to receive something dramatic, for you to get some kind of boon or abundance or accolade, or even like a position in a weird way. Not that you need any of these things, but in a way, you're the way that you've reoriented yourself and recommitted yourself to your path and to your work during this time, it's welcoming something else in. And the thing about this, I think the reason why the green comes in here is it says it's going to be intense. That's the purple. It's going to be very dramatic, big changes. And yet that green in the middle is just to be like, but don't worry, it's harmonious. So I think that means if some good things or interesting things or challenging things are happening to you, know that it's trying to bring you into a place of increased balance, greater harmony, even with some changes that come along. Final two things is the pink up at the top of your head. That represents the ancestors, the spirit guides. They are way the heck up there. And I know you are a very deeply, magical person, but I want to remark at how you've kind of kept your field very clear. It's a relatively spacious around the inside of your aura. And I think it's almost like you're like, okay, I can deal with this magic and mojo and hooju juju, but I actually need it at like a literal arm's length for a minute until I kind of stabilize and equalize it and find a new harmony in the space that I'm in. And the red from the third eye says good, because there's likely to be some highly visionary, intuitive, psychic awakening that if you resist it, will definitely not support this balance. But that I think you're going to get some clairvoyant phenomena, some intense dreams, some repeating numbers, angel numbers, words that you see, visual phenomena, even visual distortion, that is just kind of telling you that, to use a fairly dense term, you're leveling up in a way. This looks like someone who's in the middle of, like in the Tony Hawk screen. Remember we used to play Tony Hawk in my dorm room in freshman year, where it's like, this is where you get to choose your character's garb for the next level that they're going to play. And it's like, this makes perfect sense in the midst of Mars retrograde, that all of this is a kind of reshuffling, but also you're going somewhere, and your vision and your ancestors and your guides are going to try to give you as much insight into where you're going and what they think is going to happen and what you want to have happen. But there's almost that little bit of an arm's length is gonna be pushed on. So it's like Spirit's going to be trying to give you insight into what's happening, what's coming. And remember, none of this needs to be phenomenological. The ideal always in a reading like this and in our space, and at least in my practice, is balance, is poise, is sustainability, so that you level up, because maybe there's a whole different crop of people that you need to work with. Or, even in this, we're breaking a seal and bringing you into the digisphere in this way. It's like, it could be some kind of avenue that opens up like that. And it's like, just keep breathing, keep doing your practices, and honor the dead, honor the ancestors, because your third eye, the red, is just the one thing why I can't move on. They need me to point out, your aura wants me to point out too, that the red, it has a high stakes kind of either or. It's a strong word right now, life or death. It's not really life or death, but it's like a very intense, you gotta open to what you're seeing, or like I said, it will compromise your balance. So it's almost like, don't be afraid of visions that you have or openings that you're experiencing, because to some extent, you doing that and honoring that is just as necessary as someone peeing or eating enough or sleeping enough. It contributes to your overall holistic balance. Okay. That's
cool.
Your pick. Does that resonate? How's that feel?
That feels amazing. Feels spot on.
Okay, good. So we're saving this for you. We will send this to you tomorrow. Just wanted to give you that little, burst of yum. There you are. Good. It's all saved. Okay, we're going to stop sharing this. So thank you for that. Thank you for showing. And just so everybody knows, we do those AuraPics as individual readings, as group readings, but we like to do them with healers like Becca, people here, because, we get to see your beauty and your glory and your spirit and your dirty ass laundry all the time. So I'm very comfortable with it. I know you're very comfortable with it, but I like asking these friends of mine to take this little gift, because they often underestimate how powerful it is for someone like you, right? Because I know so many people that just think of you as this wildly powerful being, myself included. But when someone like you opens up to not knowing what, some high queen is going to say to them, while their aura is being broadcast into the ether webs, it's just, I really appreciate the vulnerability and the sharing with that. So thank you. Thank you.
Something to piggyback on that. I think that it's really important for people who are healers or who identify in the medical community to be honest when someone asks how you're doing. Because, and also as if you're a parent, to not pretend that everything's okay when things just cannot be okay right now. Like, they might be okay in the moment, or at the end of the day, it's okay. But if where you're at is, as you pan out, it gets scary, it gets overwhelming, it gets nuts, like, let it be there. And if we can, model vulnerability, then our patients can be more vulnerable with us, then our children can be more vulnerable with us, then we can all be more vulnerable. Like, one thing I'm seeing in my practice a lot since this pandemic started is skin issues. And the skin that's about the lungs open, right? Skin. And people who are like myself included, actually. And I didn't wear makeup on purpose, because I'm like, I'm going to show you all my gnarly skin today. Because it's like, this is our outer layer. And when our insides are hurting, it comes out through our skin. And we're hurting as a world right now, as a global community. And so it's really important for us to let that vulnerability show, and to allow for everyone to be more raw, to be more honest with each other right now.
To express, to purge. I always talk about grief as like a fuel tank, that you don't want it to stay full, because then it will overflow. you want to drain that tank. You want to burn some of that stuff off. We actually gave a couple to several people that we worked with this week a grieving practice that was powerful, which is about setting a timer for 15 minutes just to give yourself 5 minutes to do personal grief and just to connect to and feel your personal grief, to go a layer deeper and feel impersonal grief, things that you're grieving or that you're sad about that are not directly related to you, but that you've been exposed to. Like one of the examples being like, when I think about people who've lost someone who's passed without being able to be with them, and the nurse is holding the phone to them, like that's so heartbreaking. What do you do with that? Well, you definitely don't put it out, pump it down, and drink it, drink on top of it. You can find a place to let it in. So 5 minutes personal stuff that you are personally grieving, 5 minutes impersonal stuff that affects you tangentially but maybe isn't happening directly to you, and then 5 minutes of the big old Oprah ugly cry collective grief that is just part of the human condition, part of being in the body, part of feeling, part of living, and part of breathing, because it hurts sometimes, so and then the most important thing is to kind of back up out of it, not 5, 5, 5, but just to say, okay, so what the reason why I went on this tangent was to share that practice with people, but also that the most important thing about this is to feel where your lungs are and breathe each time you breathe as big as you can, just past that little bit of resistance, because that's really the thing that unlocks whatever it is that you don't want to let out. But then giving yourself that space to do what's yours, what's not necessarily yours, and then what's all of ours makes the psyche be able to handle it and process and kind of regulate, because you're going deep and then you're coming out. So then when you go back out, you just go, okay, that was what the collective stuff felt like. Oh yeah, this is the impersonal, this is the personal, and now I go back about my day. Because if you try to come out of it too quick, you're, like a wet rag trying to go about your day. So just wanted to share that, piggybacking on what you said. Okay.
I love that.
So I think, so we're at 9 o'clock. I want to bring in let's get in.
This always happens to us. We just like to talk to each other too much.
It's true. And I was like 5 minutes late coming on today. So we're going to go till 9:05. We're going to bring in Molly. Let's see.
Is this my Molly?
It might be.
It might be my Molly.
Is this Molly? Hi, Molly. You're on with Becca and Mikey. Welcome to the Edible Spirit Hour, Angel. Let's see. Let's also bring in Dale. That'll be fun.
My goodness.
I'm going to bring in Dale too, and we'll see if they can come on, these buddies. Here's Dale. Hey! Hi! Dale, we got the house, Dale. So exciting. We're going to be basically neighbors. We're going to be like, it'll be Nexium will be in between us. Okay, hey, you two.
Hey.
Hi. So good to see you. So do you all have any questions? Is there anything you want to ask me or Becca today?
Oh, I think we're like so behind in the we're behind in the YouTube, so we didn't know we were up. Hi.
Oh no, blessings. That's fine.
First of all, Audrey, you look amazing. Oh my God. You're giving such beautiful Hepburn vibes right now. It's insane. Yeah, this was another amazing session. I just wanted to thank both of you so much. You've both been such huge inspirations in my own healing journey and in, I don't know, just blossoming into working with other people. So I just, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Thank you.
Buddy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So good to see you.
Yeah.
I got two things for you here. I just pulled just two little cards by way of giving you all a reading. So I think one of these is for each of you. So one of them is about air and messages, and yep. And then the other one is about Scorpion and caution. Okay. I would just say you know, when I see each of these cards, it occurs to me that Scorpio goes down and into the depths of the emotion and into the depths of the darkness in order to reemerge, right? And be reborn. That's part of the scorpionic mystery. And then the air really flows and flies and brings clarity in order to get something that then kind of brings you back down to earth, because at the bottom of this, it says message, right? At the bottom of this card, it says message. So it's air and message. So I would just say, you know, as I say, I think one of them's for each of you. You can make up your minds about whose is whose. I would also talk about the two of them in tandem, and Becca might have something too. But I would talk about the two of them in tandem to just say, you know, they're connected. You go down to come up, you go up to come down. So just make sure that as you go on these journeys, whether they're emotional or intellectual, as you go in or as you go out, you just remember to bring it back to the space that you're in, to the body that you're in, to the moment that you're in, and let all of the stuff that you're experiencing feed the kind of primary experience of where you are now, what you're doing now, be here now. That's my vibe. What you got, Becca?
For Dale and Kaya.
Hi, Becca.
Hi. So
Hi.
thank you. I know that there was this immediate feeling of, I know which one is my card. It's the opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that too.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That's all. I just had to add that. It was like,
I'm obsessed. No, but I think that's really great because that's what I was completely picking
totally.
up in terms of that flow. So
And I saw it actually as DNA,
100.
not like an infinity side, but actually DNA, where there's like the bridges across. Yeah.
Perfect. Because yes, exactly. So to me, it feels like you guys think you might be going on one journey and you're going to go on that journey, but just remember to like bring it all back home and bring it into the body and bring it into the cellular structure, and remember what you're feeding through deep emotional journeys. And also, I keep seeing, when I saw the air, I know you just moved, right? But when I saw air, I'm thinking of you walking on a mountain, eagle medicine, hawk medicine, all that stuff. It's like, it's beautiful, but that much air can sometimes make you kind of an asshole because it brings you so thoroughly up into the mind and getting so much oxygen and everything's so clear that it's like, yeah, but we're talking healing here. We're talking healing ourselves and healing others, and just this remembrance that, you know, if you're taking care of yourself, if you have what you need and you're not consecrating it in service at some point, right? It'll kind of consume you, or it'll just become another structure or another choice that you're making that doesn't really change anything, or that in Becca's parlance too, that doesn't really move the energy, or that doesn't really shift the chi, whether it's personal or in a relationship or collective. Okay. All right.
And y'all look amazing.
Amazing.
You do.
Thank
You
you,
look
guys.
so beautiful. All right. It's good to see you guys.
I just want to also say really quickly, I've personally been working with Becca for like 6 years now, and I refer to her medicine as Becca medicine. So if any of you guys want to change your life, just got introduced to the best way to do it.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you, buddies.
So
Thanks,
much.
guys. We love you.
Thank you.
Love you. Okay, cool. So my dear ones, so what I want to do now, Becca, is just we're gonna wrap up a little bit. So yes. Okay, so we're gonna talk a little bit. We do that was technically our segment that's called 1-900-DLISH. That's our like call-in segment. And next time you're on, we'll make sure we have more time to get to a couple more people calling in. But what we like to do now is we just like to end our moment with something called yumminess, okay? Where you and I share something that is of the earth plane, something that is entirely terrestrial and unctuous and from down here, the Capricorn, triple Capricorn, that makes your magma pop, that unleashes your divinity, that lifts you up into the stars. So what you got?
I thought about this since I got your email to prep me for this question, and I had all these other things all week, and then today it changed.
What is it?
Today it changed to these queer men taking on the Proud Boys hashtag. And it is like the best thing ever, 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 ever. And they totally co-opted the hashtag and they stole it. And I don't even have Instagram. So like, but just like knowing that this is happening, it's a very Zoolander moment where I'm like, I don't listen to the music, but I'm happy that Sting makes it. But like, I don't have Instagram, but I'm so happy that when you go to the hashtag of Proud Boys, there's a bunch of dudes making out with each other. And it's so awesome.
Amazing. See,
Yeah.
this is a great example of, there's a lot of shade getting thrown around about the socials, and I totally understand everybody needs to have relationships to all tools and all substances that are in harmony for them. But I love this because this is a great example of how you can hack an algorithm, how you can, once you understand the technology, you can use it. You know, you can use it in interesting and unique ways. So that's really amazing. Yeah, someone told me about that earlier today. I got to check it out. I haven't been able to see it yet.
It makes me really happy, and maybe I looked at too many photos of it.
So the thing that is giving me yumminess in life is the last corn of the season up here in the Catskills. And just so you know, if you ever want to do this and you have a grill in New York City, maybe not, but maybe you guys do, to soak a corn cob. Again, it's going to be hard to find, but I just wanted to share this medicine with everybody, because when you soak the corn for a while and in water, and then you throw it on the grill and actually just let it char. And it gives you just like the sexiest, juiciest, sweetest, creamiest, yellowest, and whitest deliciousness. So, So
my magma's exploding right now.
Corn being associated with Ceres, grain goddess, mother archetype, Virgo. Virgo's season's pretty much over. We had the Virgo new moon, Aries full moon. The next new moon will be a Libra new moon. So this is really the end. We just had the harvest full moon was on Thursday. So this is the end of the summer bounty. I want to offer this this brings me into my body, but also up into the sweetness and deliciousness of my spirit. So I want to thank you, Rebecca. Thank everybody who's been watching. Thank everybody who's been tuning in. We'll be back again next week on Sunday night at 8 p.m. Check your foodie scope, subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow us on Instagram. And Becca, tell people how they can find you if they want to work with you. Tell us.
Really, my website that's super bare bones, but you can find me on there, is just Becca Kraus, BECCAKRAUSS, Kraus, BeccaKraus.com, or through Facebook. You can find me. We're friends, but I'm not really on the social media world. But you can find me in those places.
Yeah, no, that's really good. And if you guys, email or text me or DM me, I'll definitely hook you up with Becca's information. We're definitely going to have you back here, Becca, because I feel like we really just like barely scratched the tip of the iceberg. I wanted to go into so much of all of the other wild practices and stuff that you do and stuff that you have, but I'm really glad we were able to get some of this COVID information out to people, and to just remember that, like, even if you don't know, if you don't have antibodies, if you don't know if you had it, if you don't, whatever, you don't, just to pay attention to your experience, your body, your symptoms, your feelings, your breath, your I was talking to Becca about COVID because I was waking up every morning and my hands were numb and tingling. And she read my pulse in that day that we went to her room, gave me some herbs, and she was like, "You're going to cough up some phlegm from this." And I was like, "Yeah, okay, whatever." And then every fucking day for like the next 2 weeks, I was just coughing up phlegm. And now in the morning, my hands feel great, unless I've been writing a lot, but that's carpal tunnel. It's a totally different feeling. It's like I get a weird little tingle just because this is swollen. But the practice that the herbs that you gave me, they really, really helped. So I just thank you for that. I really wanted to share this with everybody. So
I'm also not charging people for COVID herb consultations or post-COVID herb syndrome. So an actual treatment is, I charge for that. But if someone just wants a recommendation of herbs, I'm not charging for that.
That's incredible, you guys. So, yeah, if you think you had some, if you're experiencing some of those symptoms, like definitely go to BeccaKraus.com, find Becca, find her practice. It's really amazing. I can't recommend her enough. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Becca. I love you so much.
Love you so much. I've been loving you for 20 years. I'm going to love you for 50 more.
Same. We're going to talk about techno next time.
Amazing.
Okay. I love you. Bye, everyone.
You.
Thank you all for being here. We love you so much.